Hello everyone, and welcome to the first of a number of comms on fleet topics. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Phil Copnell and I'm the fleet manager for the 757, 767 and 787. As a result of the COVID-19 crisis, Northern Region Airlines has more or less stopped flight operations and we're entering a period of inactivity for pilots that we've not seen previously. The question is, how do we as pilots maintain or possibly improve our knowledge and skill levels? When flight operations start again, we need to ensure that we are as prepared as we can be. The best way is through self-study of the manuals, thinking through procedures and scenarios. You will all be familiar with the phrase armchair flying, and that's what we all need to do to ensure that when we return to work, we're both safe and competent. You already have easy access to all the documents that you need on iDoc Browser, which includes manuals, guidance material, procedure videos, and previous Know Your Fleet questions and answers. To help you maintain your knowledge levels, I will continue to publish Know Your Fleet on a regular basis, and I plan to send you regular emails and videos which will cover a number of topics, including procedures, with additional explanatory information and specific areas to study. I hope you see this as an opportunity for self-improvement and return to work in better shape than you left it. Thank you for listening. Before we start looking at individual procedures, let's take a moment to consider the philosophy that runs through them. We often hear that TUI operates in accordance with Boeing philosophy, so what does that mean? The normal procedures are designed for use by trained pilots, with the procedures following a definitive panel scan. Each pilot is assigned a flight deck area to initiate action in accordance with normal and supplementary procedures, otherwise known as an area of responsibility. Boeing recognises that error is a fundamental human trait and has designed its procedures to maximise the chance of trapping errors. Procedures up to the before start procedure are designed as uncoordinated, with each pilot following his or her own scan flow. From the commencement of the before start procedure, the pilots come together and accomplish procedures in a coordinated way that allows active monitoring. During procedures, pilot action is initiated in a sequence and by area of responsibility. This allows for active monitoring by the other pilot, and errors or omissions can be identified. The final error trap in critical procedures is a checklist. It's important that pilots accomplish procedures in the published sequence so that the monitoring pilot can predict what comes next. In conclusion, a TUI aeroplane should be operated with both pilots working together and monitoring each other's actions to ensure that errors and omissions are identified. Today, I plan to look at the preliminary pre-flight procedure and the exterior inspection. The preliminary pre-flight procedure is a non-crew coordinated procedure. In other words, it's done by the captain or the first officer. Custom and practice is for the pilot that will be the pilot flying for that sector does the procedure. The pilot monitoring will normally accomplish the exterior inspection, but more of that later. The preliminary pre-flight procedure assumes that the electrical power-up supplementary procedure has been completed. First of all, let's watch the video covering the preliminary pre-flight procedure. Accomplish the flight deck door access system test prior to the first departure on each flight day. IRS selectors on backlight extinguished. Status display check, verify that only expected messages are displayed, verify that the crew oxygen pressure, the hydraulic quantity and engine oil quantity are sufficient for flight. After a crew change or maintenance action, conduct the oxygen pressure drop test, check the tech log, check the emergency equipment, set the parking brake if the brake wear indicators are to be checked. Fit the pilot iPad as required. Since this video was made, there have been some changes to the preliminary pre-flight procedure, so let's work through this in chronological order. Prior to the first departure of each flight day, accomplish the test of the flight deck door access system to satisfy the limitations of the aeroplane. If pilots are not familiar with the test, refer to the supplementary procedures. It's worth noting that the test does not include as a final step selecting the flight deck door power switch off. Pilots may use their judgment, and if there is a risk of becoming locked out of the flight deck during the initial stages of the pre-flight, select the flight deck door power switch off. IRS alignment is started by switching the IRS selectors to off for 30 seconds and then back on. The airplane must not be moved during realignment. If the battery light remains illuminated, electrical power is supplied by the hot battery buzz and the horn in the landing gear wheel well sounds. Alignment takes 7 to 10 minutes at mid-latitudes. When the status display is checked, unexpected messages must be verified as dispatchable in the MEL. Line maintenance or maintrol are also available to assist. Minimum oxygen pressures for dispatch when operating over high terrain are published in the OMB Volume 1, Chapter 10. Dispatch with a lower oxygen pressure is possible, and this can be calculated from the OMB Volume 3 Performance Dispatch. If RF is displayed on the hydraulic display of the status page, contact maintenance for servicing. If the engine oil quantity is less than 12 litres, contact maintenance to determine if dispatch is possible or for servicing if required. After a crew change or maintenance action, verify that the crew oxygen low alert message is not shown. This alert is shown when the oxygen pressure is 700 psi or less. When checking the tech log, ensure that the correct registry number is shown. As well as the normal items checked, ensure that all work orders have been closed and/or deferred. Check the emergency equipment in the flight deck. Normally, the parking brake is set to allow the other pilot to check the brake wear indicators during the exterior inspection. Do a security search in accordance with OMA 10.3.2. And finally, both pilots should fit their respective flypad trays. The exterior inspection is a straightforward procedure and described in detail in the OMB Volume 1. 787 pilots must be extra vigilant for signs of damage to the composite structure of the aeroplane. Even small amounts of damage on the exterior can lead to composite delamination beneath the surface. In the flight deck flyaway kit, which should be sealed, is a ramp damage checker, which essentially uses ultrasound to detect damage to composite material. On IDOC Browser, in the Operational Information folder Fleet Guidance, you'll find type-specific presentations covering the pre-flight inspection. It's important to note that this covers pilot and cabin crew checks. Please take some time to review these documents. Only the commander or an engineer may sign for the pre-flight inspection. It's also worth mentioning that from a security perspective, that the wheel wells should be checked as part of the security search. Also, from an operational point of view, it's worth assessing how the turnaround is going whilst outside the aeroplane. Is the refueling taking place? How's the baggage handling going? Toilet servicing? And so on.